Hi guys, it's Adam here, and in today's video we're going to be going through how I managed to memorise this entire textbook. Now this textbook is no small textbook, it's over 400 pages long, but if you were to ask me a question on any paragraph in this book right now, I'm pretty confident that I'd be able to give you the answer. Now in the past, especially when I was in school, I had absolutely no idea what you should be doing when it comes to studying. And all I would have done in the past is read this book through from start to finish as many times as I could before my exam, hoping that it would set in. And well, it turns out that that is actually one of the worst ways of revising, and it really doesn't help you retain information. What we're going to be doing to memorise this is using two of the principles from the book Make It Stick. Now if you've read the book, then in a minute we'll be going through how to apply them, but the two principles are, first of all, that you need to be recalling information. Now the easiest way of thinking about recalling information is if someone asks you a question. If someone asks you a question, you kind of have to go through like the archives of your mind and piece together an answer and then fire it out. And it's that process of kind of having to go back through your memory and retrieve the answer that really helps you remember things. The second part to it is then something called spaced repetition, and that means not just cramming that information in as quickly as you can, it means repeating things over a period of time, maybe longer than you're used to. So imagine this, based on the textbook that you have in mind, let's say I was to ask you right now 50 questions based upon it. Let's say you've done a little bit of reading and a little bit of studying already and you get 30 out of 50. So you've got 20 wrong. If I was to give you the answers to the 20 wrong questions and then say, should we sit the exact same test again? I'm pretty confident that you would do better, and I'm sure you'd be pretty confident in sitting that exam as well. Then let's say, I don't know, you got 40 right because 10 of the answers still didn't sink in, and I was to tell you the answers to the 10 you got wrong, and you were to go again. You'd probably get, say, 45 right, and if we were to repeat this over and over again, you would 100% get to the point where you got 100% of the questions right. So then what does that have to do with memorising textbooks? Now step one is to go through your textbook and turn every paragraph or any important part of the book into a question. Now, for a book like this Prince 2 book that's 400 pages long, this meant that I resulted in something like 500 questions. Now, I know that might sound absolutely ridiculous, but when you've seen the answers to 500 questions, you'll be surprised how many of those 500 you get right. Now this process isn't a short process, and it's worthwhile thinking about how you're going to store this information. I personally use an app called Notion. I use Notion because it's something that is online and I can access it anywhere that I am. I don't have to be at home, but you could do this with something like flashcards. Now the reason I use Notion is because they have something called a toggle list, and you can do it so that you write the question at the top, and then when you click the toggle list it reveals the answer. Now that step is very important. When you're reading the question, you cannot see the answer, because if you can see the answer, you're not going through the process of recalling. You want to be able to read the question and then have to think about the answer. So you actually have to think about it before you reveal the answer and check that you're right. So if you can't use something like Notion, or you don't want to use something like Notion, then you could use something like flashcards. So if you had the questions on one side and the answers on the other, you can then test yourself on the questions before looking at the answers. And that is the important part, because that is principle one. So then at this point you have turned your textbook into a massive series of questions. What next? Now the important part with the next part is the second principle, and that was spaced repetition. You want to test yourself on these questions, but you don't want to just cram it and then never do it again. Instead, what you want to do is you want to answer the questions, then give it a period of time, and then answer them again. And when I test myself, if I get the answer right, then I will give the line like a green highlight. If I'm a little bit unsure, but I kind of got there, I'll mark it amber. And if I just had absolutely no idea, I'll mark it red. In doing this, it gives me a bit of an idea then of just how well I'm doing. And it also means that if I want to test myself on this, but be a bit quicker about it next time, all I really need to do is test myself on the orange and red questions. To begin with, I'd probably test myself once, maybe twice a day, and I'd quickly turn that to once a day, and then really quite quickly turn that into maybe once or twice a week. Now, once you get to the point where you can test yourself kind of once a week or once every 2 weeks and get very good results, you've got to the point where you have quite literally memorized a textbook. Now, I was so skeptical of things like this working. I'd seen it online and I didn't really believe it, to be honest. Now, having done this, and for the first time with this book about a year ago, I've been doing it with quite a few things recently. Now, not just textbooks, I'm also kind of into reading quite a lot of personal development books. The current one I'm reading is Good Vibes, Good Life by Vex King, and what I do quite often with books like this is I will just take some notes on them and turn them into very mini versions of what we've just described. Because I found myself reading books like this and just after reading them thinking, you know what, that was an amazing book, gave me lots of great ideas, but then a week later I kind of forget about it, especially if I've started another book. So I'm currently turning this into kind of the exact same thing we just went through, but just not in so much detail because I'm not exactly going to be quizzing myself on this. It's just to remember the important kind of principles and the key message from the book. So that's the end of this video. If you've enjoyed this video, please do not forget to like and subscribe. This is a new channel, but we have plenty of things coming. Like I said a minute ago, I'm going through this book currently and turning it into some notes. What I'm going to be doing is sharing my thoughts on this book in a video very soon. And I've got a list of, I think, 40 video ideas I'm going through the process of making right now. So if this is the sort of content you enjoy, please like and subscribe. And I hope to see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Cheers.